As I'm concerned, we're already directly officially involved. Remember the president bragging about setting Iran up, lulling them into a false sense of complacency. There were going to be negotiations on Sunday, this past Sunday. These were the serious negotiations. This was it. Time to get it out, and the Iranians were preparing for it. Their lead negotiator, Sham Khan, he actually had done an interview in the lead up to this, saying, "We're ready. We are ready right now to sign a treaty that says no nuclear weapons. We are ready to subject ourselves to inspections to cap our enrichment levels at 3.75% needed for the nuclear fuel. We're ready to do this right now." That's what they were ready to put on the table on Sunday. And Trump greenlit an Israeli surprise attack and then bragged about it. Bragged about the Iranians who were negotiators were now dead. Dead. This isn't a game. This isn't an academic exercise. The Iranian negotiator who was taking everything we were saying at face value, working with his government to come up with a solution to avoid war, was assassinated by the Israelis with the approval of Donald Trump, who then bragged about it. So we're already at war. This is our war. We're just using Israel as a proxy. The problem for Donald Trump is the war is not going well. We are now looking at a situation where Israel is losing this war and will lose this war. And they desperately need the United States to intervene to pull the chestnuts out of the fire, so to speak, for them. It is deeply disturbing that the Director of National Intelligence, who is responsible for providing the presidential daily brief, remember that Tulsi Gabbard is responsible for briefing the president on the intelligence situation that exists in the world today. She testified for Congress as part of the, national threat assessment that Iran had not made a political decision regarding nuclear weapons. It was still, the Iranian decision was they do not want nuclear weapons, they're not seeking nuclear weapons, and that the data supports that Iran is not pursuing a nuclear weapons program. This is the official assessment of the United States intelligence community. It just happens to go against the overly politicized intelligence coming out of Israel. I want to remind people that Israel, helped create the fiction of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. When I was working with the United Nations, Israel was, trying to create the perception of an ongoing Iraqi nuclear weapons program, manufacturing data. I had in my possession, their assessment. The FBI seized it when they came in my house, but the assessment that's basically proved that they just make stuff up. And that's happening today. And the President of the United States, when he says, "I don't care what Tulsi says," what he's saying is, "I don't care what the U.S. intelligence community says." So where is he getting his intelligence? Who's briefing the president? Israel. So we have been, the president has totally subordinated the most critical decision-making aspects of the chief executive, the commander in chief, to a foreign nation. So this is disturbing. I don't know if we're going to go to war. The president also has been briefed by the Pentagon about the consequences of war, but he is giving Israel all the support they need to do what is necessary for Israel to prevail in this conflict. But it's not going to be enough. I mean, look at the president, how angry he is. See, he was told that ballistic missile defense worked. That's why he had his big Golden Dome ceremony, and that was sort of premised on, the notion that Iron Dome in Israel is a functioning, viable missile defense system. No, it's not. It's an embarrassment. It's a joke. It's a waste of money. And this is what's going to result in an Israeli defeat because they cannot defend themselves. Yesterday, Iran proved that they can just fire missiles and hit the most sensitive sites in Israel with absolute accuracy. This wasn't a barrage of missiles. These were surgical strikes. And Iran can do this day after day after day after day after day, and Israel's running out of missiles. And even if they have the missiles don't work. Neither do the U.S. missiles. Remember, this isn't just an Israeli Iron Dome. It's backed up by U.S. Aegis ships offshore. that are tied into the Ballistic Missile Defense Organization satellite network that are using their SM-3s and SM-6 interceptor missiles. This is tied into the THAAD missile defense system, which is deployed to Israel. And we are expending our arsenal in defense of Israel. It's not working, and we're running out of missiles, and Israel's running out of missiles. And that's the problem. Trump knows the math, that they will run out of interceptor missiles, which don't work. But even if they did, they're going to run out of them, and Iran's not going to run out of missiles. And that's the end of Israel. Israel won't allow the citizens to leave right now. If Israel opened the gates, you'd see millions of Israelis flee. And that's the end of Israel. I've always said, if you want to see the Israeli state disappear, it happens when you get a demographic shift that's derived from millions of Israelis fleeing. Right now, if you open up the border, 2 million, 3 million Israelis would leave. That's a third of their population. That's the end of Israel. And the Israeli government knows it. So they close the borders. They're keeping their people in this prison now that has no defenses and is going to be pummeled by the Iranians going forward. And the president doesn't know what to do about it. And he's a very frustrated man right now.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the case. And it's been interesting to kind of watch Trump's response, exactly as you were noting there, him coming out and taking credit for this. And it does kind of seem like Trump thought that, oh, Israel will carry out this initial attack and Iran will just fold and agree to whatever deal. But exactly as you were also pointing out, you've got Iran carrying out these surgical strikes. I mean, they shut down the oil refinery in Haifa with strikes on Monday. How do you view Iran's response to this and kind of the way that they're taking it, not hitting everything in Israel all at once, taking it really kind of day by day and making it clear that, hey, they're ready to continue to go on into a long war if that's what Israel and the U.S. want?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to get into the minds of the Iranian decision makers. First of all, many of their senior decision makers, especially on the military side, are dead. So what we're seeing, though, is the reality that Iran is a modern nation state. See, all too often in the West, we have this perception of Iran as being a theocratic dictatorship, where all the power is held, in the top echelons. And if you just decapitate that, the rest of the system will collapse. We don't respect the fact that the Iranian system is resilient and it's grounded in a nation that actually supports what's going. Yes, there's dissent. We know there's dissent. We know there's an opposition. We know there's external forces trying to do harm to Iran. But the vast majority of the Iranian people support the government as it is. It's an Iranian government. And the more you attack Iran, the more concentrated this support becomes, the stronger it becomes. So the hope of decapitating Iranian leadership and shock and awe in the first day of the strike, they hope that this would somehow cause a collapse on the part of the Iranian people and the surviving Iranian government. It's a misplaced hope. The Iranians have resilience. Their planning has been going on for a long time, and there are many, many people who are privy to the plan and support the plan. So when you take out the top, they just replace it and they execute the plan. The plan can't be killed. Of course, no plan survives initial contact with the enemy, and we don't know to what extent Israel has been able to, destroy stockpiles of missiles, destroy launchers, destroy facilities. We don't know. We know they've been targeting them. But the other thing we know is that the Iranians were fully aware of what the Israelis were capable of doing, and the United States. Iran has been preparing for 20 years now for this very war. This very war is what they have been preparing for. So the idea that knowing about, U.S. intelligence and Israeli intelligence capabilities, knowing about the nature of our weaponry and the destructive capacity of our weaponry, that Iran would somehow leave itself vulnerable to interdiction is absurd. And I think it's playing out. I think the Iranians have built a system that is able to ride out this storm. Remember, part of this system was built to survive an American invasion, which implied certain parts of Iran would be occupied while the resistance continued. The Iranians, I believe, operate with the same mindset as the Iraqis did. I remember being told by a very senior Iraqi after the Desert Storm, and then later on in other interdictions, he said, we're really good at pouring concrete. So if you just want to go and blow up buildings, we can rebuild the buildings. But understand, we're also good at relocating things. And I learned this as a weapons inspector, and I was involved in in Desert Storm in the targeting, and I know what we dropped bombs on, and I know why we dropped bombs on them, and I know what we wanted to achieve. And I was involved in battle damage assessment, so I would look at a building that had the requisite holes punched into it by bombs and things blown out, and I looked at the criteria to determine destruction. I'd go, destroyed, mission accomplished, check that one off the list. Then I'd go there as a weapons inspector, only to find out that the building was empty, that the Iraqis had evacuated all the good stuff to other facilities, which we didn't bomb. And now they poured new concrete, rebuilt the buildings, brought the stuff back in, and they're back. We didn't do anything. If you don't think the Iranians operate the same way, then I think we're sadly misinformed. I think the Iranians are very good at pouring concrete. The Iranians know full well what our capacity for destruction is, and the Iranians. Let's take Firdos, for example, the Firdos underground enrichment facility. Originally, it was designed to be an evacuation place. The Iranians had dug this and many others like it throughout Iran. And the purpose of this plant was, or this facility was, if they were going to be attacked, sensitive equipment would be evacuated to this site to be protected. The Iranians decided that they were going to convert it to protect their centrifuges because Natanz was vulnerable. But there are many Firdos-like locations throughout Iran that have already been built, already been constructed, that are not being bombed. I can guarantee you this, there's a lot of destruction taking place, but if you think the most sensitive equipment, for instance, Israel struck the Isfahan metallurgy facility. And, I'm sure there's big ticket items in there that couldn't be evacuated that have been destroyed. But much of the technology, the basic equipment, I don't believe is there. Why would it be? There have been noises being made about a bombing campaign for some time. Why would any of this equipment still be at the location that where we think it is? So Israel's blowing up sites, assuming certain outcomes. But the reality is they're not destroying what they think they're destroying. And Iran is preserving much of their industrial capacity. And when this is all over, they just got to pour new concrete. That's it.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how much of this also plays into the propaganda war, right? With Israel claiming, oh, we hit this, we hit that. We have aerial superiority, acting as if that is going to win them this war. And when it comes to the US and the position that they're in, I mean, it's no secret that the US establishment has wanted war with Iran for a long time. I mean, I think of General Wesley Clark's now viral comments on it saying that the post 9/11 strategy was, we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years. That was supposed to start with Iraq and end with Iran. And now you have the Pentagon rerouting assets to the Middle East, increasing the US military presence in the region. And I look at this and I go, okay, but the US is already losing a proxy war against Russia. We know that they want to get their hands on war with China in some form. How do you view the position that the US is in going into this knowing that they are not going to win a war against Iran? And to take that further, if Iran moves to close the Strait of Hormuz or moves to target US military bases in the region, this could become very costly for the US as a whole, and specifically for Mr. Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think we are looking at the end of the Trump presidency in terms of credibility. Much of his base voted for him because of his contention that he was a peace president. I mean, the hypocrisy of this man, just the bald-faced hypocrisy of a man who posts, getting in a war in the Middle East is the worst mistake, trillions of dollars wasted, thousands live, Obama's a horrible man, contemplating war with Iran, da-da-da-da-da-da. I mean, he made that his thing. Turns out he lusts for war with Iran, and he has always lusted for war with Iran, that everything he said was an absolute lie. In the past, we had people who were willing to stand up to this man and tell him the truth about the consequences of war. But if you remember, in the lead up to the invasion of Iraq in 2003, um, the way that George W. Bush got around this, the way that Dick Cheney got around this, was to create their own units, their own intelligence units, their own little circle of people who cherry picked data, shaped it to fit what they wanted it to be, not what the truth was, and then use that to justify going to war. It appears that Trump has done this because Tulsi Gabbard has been locked out. She couldn't go to Camp David to brief the president about all this. That means that within the Pentagon, this is the same thing that happened in the Cheney world. Within the Pentagon, Rumsfeld created under Douglas Feith his own little intelligence unit that just made stuff up, cherry picked stuff up to tell the president what he wanted to hear, and that this helped drive the war. That I believe that Hegseth, this mental midget who is now our Secretary of Defense, I mean, he was never more than a battalion ops officer. And now he's the Secretary of Defense. He has no maturity. He has no knowledge. He has no nothing, no depth, no experience. And he's just a yes man to this president. He gave him a damn president a parade on his birthday. That's embarrassment. And I believe that Hegseth has probably created another one of these Douglas Feith type intelligence units that's just telling the president what he wants to hear. We have a Secretary of State who double hats as the National Security Advisor. No more checks and balances and no more congressional, ability to intervene. Normally, if a Secretary of State goes off the rails, he can be summoned before Congress and have to be held accountable to Congress. But not so the National Security Advisor. He's the president's man. So Rubio's out there, and we know he's been just basically shilling for Israel for years and posturing Iran as a target. So there's no pushback from the Secretary of State / National Security Advisor. The president has ordered that this situation, that the National Security Council convene in the Situation Room of the White House. That means that Rubio is putting together this team in the White House that's working with Hegseth's little intelligence unit to spoon feed Israeli crap to the president. And the president seems to be acting on it. This isn't the way this country is supposed to operate. And I'm concerned that this president has been fed certain lies. One of the lies are that it's so easy to deceive this president. You saw it with Golden Dome. Oh, this is beautiful. This is going to work. Best technology in the world. Ready in 3 years. Only 175 billion. This is beautiful, big and beautiful and wonderful and glorious. And no, it's not. No, it's none of that. And I think this president was fed a whole bunch of lies about how things work, how good we are, what we can do, without being told, Mr. President, we just tried to knock the Houthi off the map and they beat us. We're the ones who retreated, not them. And they are just sort of like, Pop Warner football to the NFL that is Iran. This president's not getting the right information. People aren't briefing him properly. And I just think that he is inclined to, prefer a military outcome. Right now, he has been told Israel should be able to do this, but you see his increasing anger and frustration as he's confronted with the reality that Israel's losing this war, that Iran has the better technology. I mean, better than our technology. And that is the ultimate insult to this president, that, the big and beautiful American technology ain't what it seems to be, and that Iran actually has the technological solution because the Iranian scientists have been